All right. For those of you that I may not have met, I am Linda Hadley, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Dean of Turner College. And this is our first, actually, for this academic year, the first in our series of Executive Entrepreneurship Speaker Series. We have a series each academic year where we generally have 3 to 4 executives or entrepreneurs who come and speak to our business students. We call it our way of bringing sort of the boardroom to the classroom. We have gotten very, very positive feedback from the students from the value of having this lecture series. They say that they've learned a lot from hearing the personal stories and the personal journeys of our speakers. Today is a really special one because we have the opportunity to have the brand new president of Columbus State University, Dr. Chris Markwood. He is the 5th president of Columbus State University, and I'm sure you all, if you've not met him, you've had an opportunity to at least see him. So today you get to know a lot about him because he's going to talk about his career and his experience. But before he comes forward, I'd like to introduce to you another special guest. We have with us today Mrs. Bridget Markwood. Would you please stand? This is the wife of Dr. Chris Markwood, and she is here, I guess, as her husband's biggest fan, but we invited her to come. She does a lot of work in youth leadership, and we invited her to come because we wanted her to be part of this event. So thank you for being here, and thank you for the support. But Dr. Markwood joined us in June as the 5th president of Columbus State. Before that, he was the provost at Texas A&M University in Corpus Christi, Texas. Prior to that, he was the provost at the University of Wisconsin Superior, where he also served a term as the vice chancellor, which is like the
interim chancellor.
Excuse me, interim chancellor, which is like president. He was the interim president at that institution. He has been a faculty member at a number of institutions, so he has had a long history in academia, and apparently it is his passion. He comes to us as a professor of political science, and I don't know if he is actually going to speak to any of the political science classes, but hopefully we were the first to get him. I think you, although his academic discipline is political science, I think you all are the first to get him to come and actually do a presentation. So let us welcome our new president, Dr. Chris Markwood.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
There we go. Thought there were a few people out there. It is indeed a pleasure. Dean Hadley, thank you, and thank you to the Turner College of Business for the opportunity to speak with you today. As I thought about what I wanted to share with you, because Dean Hadley is correct, this is the first group of students outside of new student orientation that I've gotten to speak to. So I thought about a variety of different topics that might be appropriate. I thought about my role as president at Columbus State University and possibly talking to you about institutional governance and how budgeting is done in the state and working with the system and with the Board of Regents and all of the challenges that go with that kind of a talk. And though it would be a very vital and important talk, really probably not the most upbeat one. So I thought about talking to you about education and the changes that are occurring across the country and how that impacts you as students. I could share with you my advocacy for 21st century learning models and what I believe is important for institutions like Columbus State University to be pursuing, and how thrilled we are to be here and a part of that institution. And again, while it is a vital talk, it just didn't really speak to me at this particular point in time. But I've been at Columbus State now for just about 4 months, and it has been an amazing experience. Both my wife and I have had milestone birthdays. Our daughter has started 2nd grade, and we've been talking a lot about how quickly the last 6 months have really affected us and how thrilled we are to be where we are. And that got me thinking, how did I get here? What were the events over the last 30 years that led my career and my life to this point? What were the leadership moments and the lessons that were learned from those moments? And as I thought about those questions, I stumbled onto the topic that I wanted to talk with you about today. And I wanted to share with you three stories and the lessons that I learned over the last 30-some years. So it was 33 years ago that I was sitting in an auditorium much like this one, though probably without the technology. I was 17. I knew that I was going to major in political science. And like many undergraduate political science majors, I knew that I was going to go to law school. I had a plan. I'd been working on this plan for years. Though I was born in Texas, I grew up in Iowa. And for as long as I could remember, I was interested in politics and political processes and how people working together can make things change and can influence issues across the spectrum. I've been a volunteer for quite a number of organizations. I was a page in the Iowa House of Representatives for part of my senior year in high school, and even during college sat out a semester to work on a national senatorial campaign. So while I was in college, I was very eager to start my political science classes as soon as I could. And I was probably the only one who really wanted to take that first American government class. You know the one, right? I really wanted to take that class. And so I was looking forward to that experience. However, because of my involvement in high school and the things that I had taken in high school, it became very clear to me that I already knew what was being covered in the syllabus on that class. And so the instructor mentioned that there was a test that could be taken that could allow me to test out of that particular course. And with that in mind, I signed up for the test. I reviewed the textbook, I took the test, and lo and behold, I tested out of American government. And though I didn't know it at the time, the faculty member took notice. Apparently I was the first one in a while that had taken that test. So he took notice, and as I progressed through the program, he had an opening as an undergraduate assistant. And so he hired me, and I spent 2 years now after that attending that very class I tested out of, helping him pass out his notes, pass out his worksheets and his handouts, helping to tutor struggling students, and helping him grade. So it was graduation day in 1987, and you can bet that I was tremendously excited. Keeping to my plan, I had taken the LSAT, the exam for law school, twice. And I'd applied and been accepted to a number of law schools. And I chose the University of Missouri, Columbia. And I chose primarily for two reasons. The first, it was in-state. And even then, funding for graduate school was expensive. And the opportunity to pay in-state tuition was very much appealing. But the second reason I chose UMC was that they had the opportunity for me to study and get a master's in political science alongside my law degree. And so I was excited, my family was excited, my advisor was proud, and I was off to law school. But I'll always remember the moments after receiving my undergraduate degree. We were all milling around, getting congratulated by our family, congratulating each other as friends, and then my advisor came up to me. Mr. Watley asked if he could have a word with me in private. Well, even after having just received my diploma cover, the diploma to be mailed later, after having received that, I had to wonder, oh crap, what went wrong? Well, we moved to a more quiet place, and he tells me that he's tired lately, and that his summer instructor for American government canceled on him. The summer class had enrolled full, and it started in 2 weeks. Would I be interested in teaching the course? He would give me his notes, he'd give me his handouts, and he'd be there to help me if I needed his help. Me, a 20-year-old bachelor's degree holder, teaching a college course? Heck yes. Yes. And I could save some money for law school. So I studied and prepared and taught my first college course. And I got to tell you, it's probably one of the worst courses I ever taught. In part, I know it could have been better if I had more time to prepare, if I'd had any graduate education. And if half the students hadn't been my friends who just postponed taking that class until the end of their college career. But I did it. I seized an opportunity that set in motion a chain of events that really changed the direction of my life and my career. After I finished teaching that summer course, I moved to Columbia, Missouri, and began my preparations to start my first year of law school as an L1. I purchased my books, I began reading and briefing the cases. I joined a study group. And even when I was called on in class, I managed not to embarrass myself and got the answers correct from the professor. But I couldn't get my mind off teaching that first course. After a couple of weeks of thinking, of worrying, and of strategizing, I made the decision to drop out of law school and to start the master's degree in political science full-time. At the time, it was one of the hardest decisions of my life. I remember, I had a plan, and this plan had been in place for a long time. The only plan anyone from high school or college, from my family to my friends, had ever heard about. I had to call my parents and tell them I was dropping out of law school. I had to call my aunt, who had set up a scholarship fund to assist me. I had to tell my friends and my other family members who had supported me all along this journey. And it was scary, because I had to answer the question, so what do you think you're going to do with a master's in political science? Which got me thinking, I assumed I'd have to get a PhD too. So suddenly, a 3-year law program became a 6 to 10-year graduate school commitment. Well, I look back and I have to thank Mr. Watley, my undergraduate advisor, for giving me that opportunity, because in the end I decided to change. Because that class, that opportunity that was outside of my plan, changed the course of my life. It was an opportunity that was not in my plan that I had made for my life for many years before. But I am reminded of the quote from Robert Brault, when he said, "Seize every opportunity along the way, for how sad would it be if the road you chose became the road not taken." The lesson I learned was twofold. First, don't be afraid to take on a challenge that you've not expected or planned for. While it is great to have a plan, at least consider the possibilities that unexpected opportunities may head you where you need to go. The second lesson I learned, that for me, my support groups, my friends and my family, they all got behind the decision. Some didn't quite understand it until later, but they supported me. Now, not everyone will have that kind of experience, but for me, I was very pleased to have that kind of support. So in 1993, I finished my PhD. And in 1994, landed a job as an assistant professor of political science at the University of Central Oklahoma. In my second year, I was asked as an untenured assistant professor to become the assistant dean for the College of Liberal Arts. At the time, I felt that was a real honor. I found out later that everybody else told the dean no. But I did it anyway. And as part of that role, I chaired a new committee that was looking to put together a new college on the campus. A college that would be designed to house the programs just for the arts. During that time, I got to know the provost of the university, Dr. Don Betts. Dr. Betts came to campus with a commitment to leadership and leadership development in others, and he became my mentor. I believe that mentors are extremely important. A mentor will model for you and will teach you. A mentor will advise and will counsel you. A mentor will tell you the truth, even if it's the truth you don't want to hear. And a mentor will sponsor and will champion for you. Dr. Betts brought to our campus a commitment to building leadership in others. He looked for potential leadership qualities in people and then helped them find opportunities to grow, to refine, and define those qualities. So as an assistant dean, I worked with him on the creation of this new college, the College of Arts, Media, and Design. And remember, I'm a political scientist, and I ended up chairing a committee made up of representatives from all of the arts disciplines, just me, and the artists, the musicians, the dancers, the actors, and the designers. I learned a great deal of that during that experience about working with people who think very differently than I do, who can tap into their creative juices and resources much more easily than I could. And Dr. Betts used that experience to teach me many things. Not only did I chair the committee, but I ended up drafting the final report, working with the committee members to build consensus among the arts disciplines, and eventually selling the proposal to the entire university. He used that experience to teach me the importance of patience, the strategies of building coalitions, the usefulness of compromise, and the art of selling a proposal to a skeptic audience. That's political science stuff. I encourage you to find a mentor who will model and will teach you. It was during the process of putting that new college together that I received a job offer from another university to serve as the associate provost. For me, it was a job offer that I thought sounded fantastic. It was interesting and could significantly advance my career. It would have been quite the promotion for somebody only 34 years old. I will never forget the walk, though, that he and I took around campus when I called him to tell him that I had gotten that offer and I intended to say yes. He invited me to take a walk with him, and we walked for what seemed to be over an hour, with him doing most of the talking. He talked to me about the various roles of leaders on campus and the best paths for people who wanted to pursue those roles. He talked to me about the role of a dean. He talked to me about the role of an associate provost, and he talked to me about the role of a provost. When I did state to him that I would love to stay and be an associate dean in his office, if he's wanted to so make me that offer, he reiterated that no, there wasn't a position open at this particular time, but if there ever was one, I'd be certainly open to apply. I encourage you to find a mentor who counsels and who advises you. He helped clarify in my mind the options and opportunities that might lie ahead. In the end, I decided to stay, even though he didn't offer me the job. But I completed the task of chairing that committee and to create that new college. And to my surprise, as a political scientist, I became the inaugural dean for that new college and enjoyed the support of those artists, musicians, actors, dancers, and designers. Well, about 2 years into my inaugural dean's role, the position of assistant provost opened up in his office, and you better bet I thought about applying. And I don't quite recall if I even got my letter into him before he called me and made an appointment to talk to me about it. He actually told me no. He said, no, you don't need to be an assistant provost. He said, you need to finish being the inaugural dean of this college. And if you are still interested at some point in moving into a provost office, you need to focus on becoming a provost. I encourage you to find a mentor who tells you the truth, even if it is the truth you don't want to hear. For several years, I had in my mind a particular job that I thought I wanted. And when the opportunity opened, he told me no. Well, several years later, Dr. Betts left the University of Central Oklahoma. He became the chancellor at the University of Wisconsin, River Falls. And during his early years there, he became good friends with the chancellor at the University of Wisconsin, Superior. In 2005, I received a phone call from Dr. Betts describing a provost position at UW Superior. He explained the campus to me, the community, and the chancellor, and how he thought I would be a good fit for that position and for that chancellor. He encouraged me to apply. Well, I asked him, so exactly where is UW Superior? He said, it's 2 hours north of UW River Falls. Well, I was born in Texas, and I was living in Oklahoma, and I thought Oklahoma winters were too long and too cold. And we're talking about a place where Toronto, Canada, is south of UW Superior. So, to be honest, I wasn't thrilled. So I kind of dragged my feet. 2 weeks later, he contacted me again to ask if I had applied. The committee was going to begin reviewing applications, and the word he got was that my application had not arrived. So, to be honest, I filled out the application, but my heart wasn't in it. I thought I wanted to really come in second. Strong enough to not disappoint my mentor, Dr. Betts, but not so strong that I would actually get the job offer. Well, I did get the job offer on December 26th of 2005, and I agreed to move to UW Superior because it was, in fact, a good match. I encourage you to find a mentor who sponsors and who champions you. Over the years, Dr. Betts had taken the time to get to know me as a person, as a leader, and as a team member. He got to know the chancellor of UW Wisconsin, Superior, and saw a match, and he was right. I worked with Dr. Julius Erlenbach for 4 years as his provost and discovered another mentor and a lifelong friend. Julius retired in 2010, and I was appointed the interim chancellor. The lesson I've learned about mentors is this. It's not about being at the right place at the right time. It's not about kissing up to your boss or your supervisor. It's about entering into a teaching and learning relationship that can last for decades. Interestingly enough, our relationship still exists and continues today. When I applied and interviewed for the position here at CSU, I consulted with Dr. Betts before I did. And he agreed and allowed me to use him as a reference. And when it came time for one of the reference checks, the story I heard was very interesting. Typically, a reference checker will call the individual to check up to make sure that everything that I had said was in fact true. Well, they had asked Dr. Betts the first question, and before he could even finish answering the question, he had flipped the reference checking to begin checking on Columbus State University. He wanted to make sure it was the right match for me. So I'm so thankful for a mentor like Dr. Betts. And I'm not alone. He believed mentoring to be an important part of who he was and what he was to do. And there are many of us, many like me, who benefited from his mentorship and who now espouse the importance of mentors and strive to pay that forward ourselves. So find a mentor who will teach you, who will counsel you, who will be honest with you, and who will advocate for you. The third story, the third lesson. I encourage you to find the one. So I was going about my business as dean one day in August of 2004 at the University of Central Oklahoma. I was walking into the administration building and I saw the vice president for student affairs walking with someone I didn't recognize. The vice president stopped me and said, "Dean Markwood, I'd like you to meet one of our newest employees." She introduced me to Bridget Jones, the new associate director of campus life. She would be the person who oversaw campus activities, traditions, Greek life, and diversity. We chatted about the importance of campus life and my support for students, and we went on our way. Now, at this time, I was 38, single, kept my private life private, but I immediately went into Dr. Betts' office to talk with Carrie. Carrie was his new assistant, and Carrie had used to work for me. And I asked her, "Tell me everything you can about this new Bridget person." Well, that evening, as a faculty sponsor for Sigma Nu Fraternity, we were hosting information sessions for those interested in pledging. Little did I know that that was one of Bridget Jones' new events and that she was in charge. As I was struggling to put on my lapel pin, she walked right up to me, took the lapel pin out of my hand, grabbed my lapel, stuck it in, tapped me on the shoulder and went, "Look at that. I've only known you for a day and I'm already dressing you." Flipped her hair and turned around. Well, we dated on campus for the next year. Between her events and mine as an arts dean, we were hitting 3 to 5 events most days, most weeks. I had found my one. Bridget is an accomplished student affairs professional, a curriculum innovator, a leadership consultant, and she's worked in support of students as a faculty member and in fundraising. From a professional perspective, there isn't much in a university, if anything, that she and I can't have an intelligent conversation about. But throughout our courtship and our marriage, we have learned about each other. And it is that relationship that brings so much more to our discussions and to our decisions. So whether it is a spouse, a partner, a sibling, a relative, or just your best friend, I urge you to find the one who knows all of you. It will require you to trust, to be honest, to open up in ways that you may never have thought of before. But in the end, it's that partnership that you will have that will be beneficial. So as I go back to the question that I posed at the beginning, how did I get here? I have to say it was the result of taking an opportunity that was not in my plan, seeking out and learning from a mentor, and finding the one. As you continue to pursue your education, in addition to learning everything that you can from your faculty members and getting everything you can out of the CSU experience, my advice for you is to keep your eyes open for opportunities that may not necessarily be in your plan. Seek out and learn from a mentor and build healthy relationships with those who can know all of you. So thank you for letting me share with you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.